Victoria remains on track to move to the next steps of its roadmap out of stage 4 lockdown as COVID-19 cases continue to fall in the state. With a closer look at today's figures, here's ABC analyst Casey Briggs.
Yeah, really good news indeed, Lorna. 2 more deaths, as you say, but even that number's been trending down, getting quite low now indeed. But the reason lots of people are looking very optimistically at today's figures is because, well, it's actually getting so small that it's hard to press on the screen. 11 new infections in the state today. It is worth remembering Monday's usually the smallest day of the week in terms of new infections, so we might see those numbers go up a little bit, but hopefully not too high because these numbers have been trending down relatively reliably. And the progress on the 14-day average in Melbourne has been pretty good. 34.4 is where it currently sits. We're all sort of looking to September 28 and, probably the couple of days before then to learn a bit more about the roadmap and how that will sort of look in terms of easing of restrictions. I would be surprised if some easing of restrictions didn't happen on the 28th, given that that number will, well, on this rate, be less than 30 by the time that the end of the week comes around. So even better than the 30 to 50 range that authorities were hoping for. But we'll keep watching this as the progress, and the progress, pretty well is matching where New South Wales was when it was going through similar sorts of numbers. I've been actually surprised by how well these two curves have lined up pretty well at the same speed. It took New South Wales about a month to get the 14-day average under 5. So at that rate, you'd expect Victoria or Melbourne would get there by about mid-October, but there is a long way to go, of course. And as we've seen in the city of Casey, one cluster can slow things down pretty quickly. So a long way to go, but progress remains really, really positive.
What about then New South Wales currently and Queensland as well?
Yeah, in the rest of the country, we've had both the 2 other biggest states reporting. One case in Queensland, but it's a hotel quarantined case, no locally acquired infections today. In Queensland, there's only been 2 locally acquired infections in the past week, so it's really good progress being made there as well. The week before, there were 15 or so local infections, and so you can see, those clusters that we were worried about in Queensland a couple of weeks ago haven't really been generating many new infections, and the ones that are being found have tended to be in isolation already. So fingers crossed we won't see any more springing up. Probably a little bit too early to say, as we've seen this virus go dormant for a little while before and then re-emerge, but so far so good. And 4 in New South Wales, but 3 of them are a group in hotel quarantine. So what we're actually looking at today is a 4th straight day where just 1 locally acquired infection was reported, again linked to those hospital clusters that we've been talking about for a while now. But the news in New South Wales is also looking, really positive, at least at the moment. No mystery cases in quite a long time, only 1 in the past fortnight. We've heard South Australia's Premier today indicating that he's hopeful the border restrictions on Sydney-siders will and the rest of the state will lift sometime this week, or a plan at least can be announced this week. And if these numbers keep up, you would expect that to be the case.
Casey, I mentioned earlier this hour that the United States is about to reach 200,000 deaths, a very grim milestone. There's concerns there, but Europe as well is becoming a hotspot again.
Yeah, I should say there are a couple of counters around the world that have already got this at 200,000. Different tracking bodies and counting organisations are counting these things very slightly differently in some ways. Most have it below 200,000. The Johns Hopkins University data set that we mainly use and cross-reference against others has it below. Probably in the next 24 to 48 hours, though, the United States will reach 200,000 deaths. And, remember, this pandemic has only been going for about 9 months or so, and so that is a relatively rapid speed that it's got there. Of course, these are not all of them. These are the ones that we know about and have been confirmed. But you mentioned Europe as well. Let me just show you a chart kind of grouping countries into regions. We've shown this before, but it's worth coming back to. What we're seeing at the moment is Southern Asia infections have sort of levelled out just below 100,000 a day. That is largely India, I should say. We're seeing Latin America and the Caribbean remain a sort of very big share of the world's infections, but not really increasing at the moment and sort of very slowly trending down. actually, before I get to Europe, North America is seeing a bit of a lift at the moment. That's because the United States has sort of levelled out and we're seeing a bit of a spike in places like Canada at the moment. But Europe is the one that's been consistently growing, nearly 50,000 infections every day, clearly more now than that first wave. Although I should say, and I'll keep saying this, the infections here, a better cross-section of them are being found, more of the less serious infections. So you'd expect that the overall case fatality rate will be lower than it was back then. If it isn't, well, something's gone very wrong and it's really been lost control of again. But it's not, we've been talking a lot about countries like Spain and France and the UK, which have the biggest sort of overall numbers, but we're seeing really rapid growth rates in lots of countries. The Czech Republic and Belgium is seeing a big spike at the moment, as well as places like Hungary and Austria. It is across the entire continent and it's just slowly getting worse and worse and worse as the weeks go on.